This is a DMB Society podcast.
I got a sister named Jane.
And this is the pod that Jane likes. Welcome back to the pod that Jane likes. This is Matt, and I'm joined, as always, by Jeanette, Trisha, and Sean. And you are listening to the second of our Gorge recap episodes for 2025. If you listened, or if you haven't listened to our first Gorge recap episode, we sort of set the stage and we recap night one, which was Jeanette's 300th show, Sean's first at the Gorge. Really a good time. I highly recommend going to listen to that if you haven't already. And if you have already listened to that, thank you so much for making it through that and for coming back for night two. Here we are ready to discuss what is described by many as the most epic DMB show of in really modern history, but
most
you could
historic
argue
ever
of all time. And
of all time.
we are going to get right into it. Before we get into the DMB portion of things, let's just recap from the night before. We talked about night one. It was an epic show, and one of the things I think that stood out the most to everybody after night one is that it was old DMB. We had an average song debut date of 1998. We had no songs from Before These Crowded Streets. We had no songs that were written after 2008, and we had no stand-up songs. And as I said, one of the glaring omissions was Before These Crowded Streets. How could you have such an epic set without songs from what is widely understood by the fan base to be the best album that DMB has ever produced? And so that all of that is important, and all of that sets the stage for night two. But before DMB took the stage, talk about old DMB, we've got Oscar and Julia opening up the show, and then Béla Fleck and the Flecktones, the band that Dave Matthews himself has described as the greatest band in the universe, take the stage. And I normally would only tune in for the couch tour to see DMB, but I was really hopeful that this time, watching from afar, again, Sean, Trisha, and Jeanette are at the Gorge. I'm on my couch at home. I'm tuning in, and luckily, the couch tour started early tonight, as I had hoped it would, for Béla Fleck and the Flecktones, and I watched the set. And what a talented band they are. With Jeff, without Jeff, these guys are just top-notch musicians, and are just so innovative, and play a brand of music that you can't put into a box, very similar to DMB. If you've never seen a Béla Fleck and the Flecktones show, I highly recommend you go do that. They're going to be touring this fall and into the winter with Jeff Coffin, playing tunes from their holiday album. And what's really unique about them is, as I said, they can't be fit into a box, but just their way of playing, their style of playing, is just so, it's bluegrass, it's jazz, it's a little bit of everything. You've got Future Man up there who's playing this thing that he's constructed that is like a guitar that is also a drum set, and it is just something to behold. So here we are, night one. You guys are in to the show in time to see this band, correct?
Sure.
Guys, you're
Absolutely.
in there, you're making sure you're in there. And where are you? Tell us where you're at, situated for this show.
Well, we walked in together, and then we parted ways. Trisha and Sean went into the seats. I took the show in from the lawn, and man, was it beautiful. What a gorgeous sight to be able to see the view from the lawn and listen to the Flecktones play as the soundtrack of a beautiful sunset and just a beautiful backdrop. And it definitely didn't go unnoticed that this is the history of these two bands together. Dave actually, when he introduced Béla, he had mentioned that, like, how much history these two bands have together, and he also brought up the fact that they were supposed to play in 2020, and then we all know what happened, and that got canceled, and they haven't been able to get this back together until this year. So they were very, very excited to bring this to fruition at the Gorge. And yeah, it was incredible. And then Jeff came out, and it was, a good old reunion up there. It was awesome.
Yeah, and I think I don't know, Matt, how much you were able to see on the couch tour, but to kind of paint even more of a picture of what it was like during this opening act, Dave comes out, as he always does, to introduce the opening act, and Jeanette kind of nailed the things that Dave talked about. What often happens, and this goes back to the days when DMB always had opening acts, Dave would come out, he would introduce them, and most of the time he would either stay for a song or two or just vanish altogether and, go get ready for the show. This was entirely different. This was Dave introducing the Flecktones, and then he posted up for the entire show alongside Carter and Jeff, and they stood on the side of the stage and took in the show. At one point, Carter had his drumsticks out and was kind of air drumming like, anybody else in the crowd would be. It was surreal. It was, if you are somebody that has followed the band long enough to know about the long history with the Flecktones, to see Dave and Carter and Jeff kind of watching from the side of the stage. And of course, Jeff did come out for a couple of songs, but it was unbelievable. It was, it felt like I was in some sort of a magical land where somebody turned the clock back 20 years and I was getting to relive these incredible DMB things.
Yeah, it was very cool to see them side stage because, of course, Carter's smiling ear to ear. He has his gloves on. He has his sticks. They're like watching the band and happy as can be. It was very cool. I don't know if we watched them more than we watched the band, honestly. It was just neat to see. Like, not everybody was inside at that point. So Sean and I kind of were like behind the pit, standing around in the seats where people weren't. And just, we had a good view of that situation. But yeah, to your point, Jeanette, I'm going to talk about this certainly night 3 because I had a lot of moments. But the opening bands definitely come out when the sun is like setting at this perfect time. And it's just really like it's about to go down, but it's not down yet. And it's just, they sounded incredible, and the backdrop was incredible. Yeah, it was really special.
So the Flecktones open, and I wanted to give a shout out to Béla himself for his wardrobe choice. He had a T-shirt on that he kept on the entire night that just said ice cream on it, and who doesn't love ice cream? So so go Béla! Like that was a great
also
wardrobe
a
choice.
Sweatband.
A sweatband. I liked that. That was cool.
Pod That Jane Likes Hall of Famer, just adding to his mystique. I loved every minute of it. And again, we talked night 1 about the nostalgia, and we're going to talk about nostalgia a lot here as well during this show. The first show I ever attended in 1999 at the old Foxborough Stadium. And I was obviously a novice at this point, but the Flecktones came out in the middle of the show and played number 41. There was also a Carter and Future Man drum off, which was incredible. And of course, like I didn't really realize what I was witnessing. Leroy and Jeff on the same stage, like it ended up just being such an amazing moment. And so this is just like just pulling at the heartstrings of a lot of people who have followed DMB for such a long time. And there's been such a break, there was such a break in the action of the Flecktones being around. And so to have them back in the fold here, for night 2, the anticipation for what was going to happen was extremely high, and we'll get to their guest spot here. But in terms of getting to the show, everybody is on a high from Two-Step the night before ending. And what a way to kick off night 2 here, as we start out with an All Along the Watchtower opener, which got the PTJL nerd text conversation really,
as usual,
really in full effect. Sean, do you want to take us through that and how momentous an occasion this was for a Watchtower opener?
You talk about a moment that nobody could have seen coming. It was a really fun one to be immersed in the crowd for, because as Watchtower begins, it started the same way as so many other Watchtowers started, with a Stefan intro. And I think a lot of people were maybe assuming that that was going to be Crush. We were going to get Crush, but it was going to come in a very different, much more meaningful way. And we'll get into that. But as Watchtower opened, and you can kind of see how surprised people were. They were so surprised because this is unbelievably rare. As a matter of fact, in order to go back to the last full band All Along the Watchtower opener, you've got to go all the way back to February of 1993, a show that the band played in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, at a fraternity house for the last time that All Along the Watchtower opened a full band show. So really, really digging deep. And in some ways, we should have known in that moment. It's easy to look back in retrospect, but we should have known that something very, very special was about to happen.
You never know what was going to happen.
Oh,
You might say.
We're going to get there.
So
We're there.
now I think it's critical to talk about. I said yesterday when we were, or on the previous episode that we were recording, that typically we don't go through every single song on the set list, but we're going to make an exception for this weekend because I think that everything was really placed perfectly and placed with a purpose. And here we get it didn't necessarily make sense at the time, but it made sense later that we got You Never Know as the second song. And you know, we talk about songs that belong at certain venues. You Never Know, to a lot of people, is definitely, even though it debuted in Boston, a Gorge song. And here it is in the second slot, being played here. Really great stuff. You know, I thought Jeff was exceptional on this, and you know, maybe he was showing off because he knew the Flecktones were in the building. But this was a really great choice in the 2 slot. Sean, I know you had an instant reaction to this, so take us through that.
Yeah, it all goes back to that Gorge 2002 release, and for a lot of people's money, that is the most premier, most thought about version of You Never Know, right? It's the one that comes to mind first in for so many people, and it's so iconically on that Gorge record. And
you mean
and
the box set?
the box
Yeah,
set,
you know,
or just the one disc release, however you chose to purchase.
I mean,
it when that
Jeanette
came
just
out.
wants to talk about box sets. She heard us
She
talking
does.
about box
and I get
sets.
it. Jeanette, we're right there with you.
You can. You're just trying to keep up with the crowd.
Yep.
We understand that. You know, box sets are cool.
Keep
we love
mentioning
box
it so
sets.
we get a box set of 2025 Gorge.
Yeah, right, right.
That would be
right.
interesting. How about that? That would be really cool if they almost like did like a tribute packaging and stuff too. I'd really like that.
Tribute packaging. How about just because it was the most epic Gorge ever, it deserves a box set?
Right.
It's not a tribute to 2002. It's this weekend deserves a box set. If any,
You can call it whatever you want. Just release it.
Yeah.
Just release it.
Just
release
release
it.
it. Call it a box set. Don't call it a box set.
whatever
Call it a
you
box
want.
set.
Whatever.
Definitely
Call it a box
and
set.
throw in a lot of extras. A lot of extras. Maybe like
On vinyl.
maybe
Put it
a
on vinyl.
CD-ROM could come with the box set.
Yes, a mouse pad.
Oh yes, a mouse pad, a CD-ROM.
Oh
You know what? Maybe it could be offered on floppy disk.
Maybe a little
Oh,
folded up
boy.
poster.
Oh, a folded up poster, yeah.
You know?
Oh boy. Oh my God.
All right, we're going
Well,
off the rails here,
we're off-
guys.
It was a great You Never Know. There's nothing that hits like a Gorge You Never Know. And I think just the lyrics, you're dreaming, you're in this dreamy land. Like I just was beautiful. And Sean did have goosebumps, if I said it in episode 1, but he had goosebumps. Like he was very nerdy about it. But like it also was like kind of fun seeing it through his eyes in some ways. If someone was like, oh my God, a Gorge You Never Know. You know, like it was kind of cute to see.
Yeah, and the sun like hadn't fully set yet, so it's still like a little dusk out, and like everybody's light up crowns and gold glow sticks just started turning on. It was just perfect. Yeah,
it was perfect.
And so then in the 3 spot, we get Joe Lawler back out on stage. Joe has guested several times this tour, and this is one of his regular jams. Comes out and plays Cornbread, and it was cool, right, guys?
Yeah.
You guys, everybody
The
enjoyed
lawn
it.
loved it.
Yeah.
The lawn loved
And
it.
I think it over the course of the entire 3 nights, you probably were safe to bet that you're going to get a little acknowledgement to the crew at some point.
Right.
Right. So
Yep.
I think
Right.
that it made a lot of sense. And in a weekend where you had an overload of guests to choose from, and they chose them well, this one just seemed to make a lot of sense to have Cornbread here, and especially with what was about to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then song 4 is a Pod That Jane Likes favorite. It Could Happen. And I think that this is this, again, looking back, makes a lot of sense here for what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Little foreshadowing. Tim is on the acoustic guitar for this. First time that we've seen It Could Happen with Tim on the acoustic. Pretty cool. I say this every time that this song gets played. I want to see this just sort of float off at the end and go into something else. And obviously right after this, they brought the Flecktones up, and that's not what happened. But if anybody is listening who has any input on that, I love this song so much. And I think it's tremendous. I think it's one of the best songs on Walk Around the Moon. And when they first started playing it, we've talked about it when we were at the Woodlands, they played it and it floated off into something else. And I really just love it as a transition song. Especially with, the lyrics and everything too, I just think it's great, and I hope that in the future it continues to float off into something else. But now we get into.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
I still want to talk about It Could Happen. Okay. It was a gorgeous version. I mean, and I say that because they were trying to play It Could Happen a couple of times. It wasn't. They stopped playing it, honestly.
Because when they first started playing, when Walk Around the Moon came out, I thought it was amazing, and then it just kind of lost its spark,
lost something, and then they stopped playing it. So it was gorgeous, and not a lot of people around us actually knew the song, and it's not played. I don't blame them. It is not played.
It was just over a year since the last performance, 368 days in between It Could Happen performances.
Oh, wow. Right, and before that it was probably played once or twice. Like, it wasn't. Right.
It didn't get a lot of 2024 performances. It did get a handful, but it got an awful lot in 23, and just a few of them in 24. And here we see it for the first time in 25.
And Sean and I are singing at the top of our lungs, doing a little bit of interpretive dance. I mean,
as one does,
as one does, as you would expect. Yep.
It could happen. So anyway, I just wanted to pause because we're going to get into like all of the amazingness of the show, but at that point,
was an amazing moment.
Was the highlight.
You're right.
It was a very big moment.
Yeah.
Go for it. To the big moment.
So now we transition into Dave introducing the Flecktones, and you can see them walking on stage, and you knew it was going to happen. You knew that they were going to come out for something. And, we had all said, it's got to be a 41, right? And it's got to recharge, reinvigorate number 41, because number 41, we feel, has lost its way a little bit from time to time. And I just kept screaming, like, Arjuna me. Like, that's what I kept saying. I just wanted it. And
you weren't the only one.
And boy, did we get it. We get a, not quite a 42002 number 41, but we got 16 minutes of musical bliss, I'm going to call it. It was awesome. Everyone's trading solos. They don't even waste any time beating around the bush going into Sojourn of Arjuna.
Nope, they're just like, here it is.
Yeah, here it is. Like, we're not even going to
we're not going to pretend.
We've waited a long time to do this.
Right.
And if you're, if you remember, if you're going back and looking at the history of number 41, Sojourn of Arjuna is a Béla Fleck and the Flecktones song that sort of melts perfectly into number 41. And for the longest time, anytime that Béla Fleck and the Flecktones would guest, they would sort of go into this song during the jam. And then after Jeff joined the band, it was sort of like a nod to the Flecktones. Anytime they were playing number 41, they would play the melody from Sojourner of Arjuna. And right after Jeff joined, you had some epic number 41 performances from him in like 2008, 2009. And that's changed. Like the song has evolved. It's changed quite a bit. The solos have been switched up a little bit. And I don't think it has ever gotten back to that point like it was. But this was absolutely the best number 41 that we've seen in a long time. And it was just the musicianship on stage for this song is absolutely incredible. My favorite, I don't know who everyone else's favorite was, but Victor Wooten, man, is like he
he's
is
a god.
an absolute beast on
Yeah.
the bass guitar. And
Yeah.
I've seen him play a million times, and I'm just every time blown away by what he can do and the way his style of playing. Oh man, that was by far my favorite part of the 41 performance.
I actually got really emotional during this because, and I think I said this on our live the next day when we went live, but this was the first time that the Flecktones and Dave Matthews Band had shared the stage since Roy's passed. And so the last time that this song was played by both bands together, Roy was there and Jeff was there, but Jeff was a Flecktone. And now here's Jeff playing it as a member of the Dave Matthews Band with his old band. And I just couldn't stop thinking about that full circle moment for Jeff and how cool that was, and how far he's come in this band. And now he's just such a solid member of our band, and how cool that must have been for him. And also how strange it must have been for all of them to not have Roy out there,
Yeah.
but it was really special. It was a really full circle moment to think about while it was all happening.
Yeah, and this was absolute old school DMB at its finest.
Yeah.
Right. Like when Matt mentioned that we were hopeful that this is what you would use the Flecktones for, I think this was not only best case scenario in that it was 41, but really best case scenario in terms of how they executed it.
Right.
Right. And you look back at some really historic moments in DMB history feature full band versions of number 41, whether you're talking about, of course, the super iconic 42002 version, live track 7, which kind of really stands out amongst the live track series. Matt was talking about Victor Wooten a little bit earlier. Victor Wooten sat in on number 41 during the Live in Chicago release. I mean, this song and with this collection of musicians is just the absolute top of the DMB mountain, right? I mean, number 41 is that way on its own, but you add in this collection of musicians alongside of DMB, and now you have the ultimate perfect recipe for what this song can be. And it was on this particular night. And it was a treat, whether you were in person consuming this, whether you were thousands of miles away couch touring. It was a absolute treat of the year, of the decade. It was a incredible moment.
It was so nostalgic.
Yeah.
It really was incredible stuff. And one of the things that I kept thinking to myself is, when is this going to happen again? I was like, I want more. I want I want a full
Greedy little pig.
I want a full tour.
I want a full Flecktones DMB tour.
Yeah.
That was the norm for such a long time.
Right.
And, know that these guys, Carter's always smiling when he's playing back there, but you could tell, when Carter is it's just sort of assumed when we talk about DMB that Carter is on another level, in general, every single night that he's out there. But when he plays with other musicians who are pushing him, pushing Carter Beauford,
right,
he I think excels to to even another level. And with the way that this Arjuna was going, you could just tell that he was loving every minute of it in the zone. And I know personally, I'm sure you guys felt the same way. I didn't want it to end. I didn't think that it was going to be a 30-minute thing, but when they were wrapping up, I'm like, no, keep.
No, I know.
Somebody take it. Somebody take it.
I agree.
Going.
Yeah.
I really didn't want it to end. So
I remember thinking, well, that's what everybody wanted, and that's the end of the show. Everybody got what they wanted. Like at that moment, right?
Right?
Like,
It
that's
was
what
like,
everybody wanted.
Oh, all right. And
Yeah.
I was like, they'll be
Yeah.
back. They'll be back, guys. They'll be back.
Oh,
Like,
I was
did.
like, all right, 40 with the Flecktones. It's over. We'll resume the rest of the show. That was the big moment.
Well, and it's funny you say that because I'm on the East Coast. It's close to midnight. I'm staying up, and I was like, I just want to see what the Flecktones do.
Right.
And so I stayed up for that, and then what is about to happen happened. But before that, I was like, oh, it's just PNP Rapunzel.
PNP
I'm gonna go to
Rapunzel.
bed. Like
Right.
it's PNP. Well, what's it gonna go into? Oh, it's just Rapunzel. Oh yeah, I'm gonna go to bed. So
Yeah.
Really quick, I just want to take 1 second, Matt, before we move on, because you brought up Carter on 41, and this was actually a note that I jotted down during the show. If you're able to find a version, unfortunately, this one, at least at the time of the recording, doesn't have any sort of official release. We're going to cross all of our fingers that this show gets that treatment in some capacity.
box set.
box set.
Yeah, I did jot down though how really incredible Carter was on this song, especially when we get past the initial singing and we get into the jam part with the Flecktones. I found myself putting kind of going back in time to me being much younger and listening to really older versions of the Flecktones with DMB performing this. Carter is so masterful at his ability to kind of keep things moving and add in his own flair. There's obviously a lot going on stage on top of Carter, but if you're able to find a recording in which you can kind of just focus on him for a while, it's a real treat. What he's doing is really special. And we're just really fortunate that we've gotten to experience Carter for as long as we have. I feel like moments come out where he shines all the time, but this moment was really glaring for me with some of the work that he was doing underneath all of the chaos and beautiful music that was taking place on top of what he was laying down.
Great point.
Yeah, well said, Sean. As
Yeah.
I agree with everything you said for sure. So here we are.
Here we are.
What is about to be something that I think that we never in a million years would have ever thought would happen.
Never.
And
all we've ever wanted.
all we've ever wanted. And also, like we've always said, like, I think anybody who is plotting out what could possibly happen on any given show is thinking about this, but it's been sort of the norm for a lot of bands who have been around for X amount of time to play some of their best albums front to back in concert. You have examples of this all the time where it's such and such a band playing blank in its entirety. And DMB has never operated like that, and we didn't really think that DMB would ever do something like that. And if they did, would they ever announce something like that ahead of time? Because that would be, I think, a hot ticket overall to try to get.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If they're playing, say, like an MSG or something, and they said, we're going to play all of Before These Crowded Streets during this MSG show, like the MSG is a tough ticket anyways, but like to know that you're going to get these songs is something that is, again, I think the likes of which we never thought we would see. So here we are.
Right.
We get PNP into Rapunzel, and when that natural finish guitar, the 12-string, comes out that's only used on Last Stop, any nerd is going to start to think about something like this. And then when Béla comes out, anybody is going to think about this, because since we've seen the return of the full Last Stop, it's always used at the end of a show, right? It's always just by its own name, as the Last Stop. This is the end. And we all talk about how the reprise is some of the best music DMB has ever produced, and so just that ending to a show has just been so perfect and so masterful and so everything. But to see that start to happen here in the middle of the set with Béla, song 7,
Yeah.
you start to really think, okay,
what's happening?
is going on here?
Yeah.
Right.
I will. Yeah, I'm just gonna mention this that Rapunzel came on, and I had to go to the bathroom so bad I couldn't even dance, and I was like upset. I'm like, I have to go right now. And the thing at the Gorge is like going to the bathroom is actually like a
It's a hike.
trek. You're either
Yeah.
going up a hill or like it's not easy. But we had to make a break for it during Rapunzel and came out of the bathroom Rapunzel. They start last stop, and Sean and I had a choice: go back to our very good seats or like find Jeanette and crew in the lawn. And it's like last stop, and like I don't know what came over us to say let's go to the lawn. And so we hiked all the way up to the lawn and got there during last stop, where everybody was just freaking out that the last stop was playing. But like I just wanted to say this because like thank God we were in with all of our friends during this time when this whole album's going to be played. Like I'm glad that not that I was fine with just Sean and good seats, but I mean this was a special moment. So we arrive in the lawn with all of our friends during the last stop, and everybody's
I was
going
so happy to see
absolutely-
them.
Yeah, I mean everybody's going nuts, right? Like last stop in the 7th spot. I don't think it hit me. Now, mind you, we had just hiked the frickin' mountain to get to where we were going, so I wasn't thinking, oh, they're going to play before these crowded streets, but
Of
it
course
started
not.
to.
I was.
Right.
I think that getting obviously getting last stop that early is super unique for modern DMB for where we've seen last stop in recent years. However, I think the thought in my head at that moment was that they had the Flecktones and they had Béla, and maybe you just kind of want to use them early in the show. Maybe they're not going to be there the whole night, but you want to make sure that you check that box, whether it be last stop or the next track that comes up, Don't Drink. You want to have Béla out for those songs. So at least in my head, that made a lot of sense, right? Like, yes, this is unique placement. Yes, it's a little strange, but you have the most incredible guest that you could possibly have for this song. Let's go ahead and use him. Maybe he's not going to be here all night.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, and so we're cruising along here. Last stop finishes, beautiful version, and then this is really going to be the time that you're going to be able to tell, because of course you've got PNP Rapunzel. Last stop happens, and you're thinking, okay, what's going to happen now? Because if this is Don't Drink the Water, we could be seeing something pretty epic here. And so Craig comes out with the drop D guitar. Dave puts it on. Béla stays out, and the band goes into Don't Drink the Water, which is of course the next song on Before These Crowded Streets. And I wanted to quickly make an aside here, because this is an important point, I think, in the show, where what was about to happen obviously is so momentous and amazing, and all the words to describe. But what I kept thinking is, would this have the same impact if you don't have the personnel that you have backstage and who is about to come out?
Right.
Having Béla on these tracks that he played on the album is, obviously next level. And then as we go through this here, having Jake come back out and having a violin on some of these songs as well, I don't necessarily think that. I mean, I think this is.
Yes, it would have.
I mean, I think
People would have freaked out.
People would have freaked.
Oh,
No, people would have
This
freaked
is-
out. But I
yeah.
think that this takes it to like.
Oh,
does.
This takes it to
1000%.
another
For sure.
stratosphere.
For
you know?
sure. For
This
sure.
is the
Yeah, and
best case scenario.
Yeah.
And I think if it didn't happen this way, then I think you end up getting people who say, that was really cool, but what would have been even more cool is if there was a violin out for Pig.
I don't
Or
even think it's
if
thought
there
of
was a
if those
banjo
people aren't
out
there.
for
Right.
Last Stop or for Don't Drink. I mean, we not only got this album in its entirety, but we got the album in its entirety in the way that it was originally intended to be heard.
Mhm.
Right.
It's so much more than just getting these songs in consecutive order. That in itself is incredible and amazing and historic and something that people will talk about forever. But I think it's the fact that they did this when they had the personnel that they had.
Yep.
They did not let, we had our Gorge preview episode, and we talked about Soulshine and how Soulshine was this incredible collection of musicians. And as a DMB fan, you were kind of sitting back just hoping that they were able to find ways to maximize what they had at their disposal. Well, to say that DMB maximized what they had at their disposal on Gorge Night 2 would be the understatement of the year.
Right.
I mean, they
Yeah.
took what they had in front of them and they turned it into a night that will stand the test of time for however long this band continues.
I think the fact that they have this personnel backstage with them is probably what got the wheels turning. That
Yeah.
maybe this is how it. I don't think it happens if they're not there. I
Yeah,
don't-
and we know from what Stefan said. Stefan took to social media and said that this was a day of decision. It
yeah,
was
like
something
4
that
hours
really-
before showtime.
Yeah, a couple hours before they took the stage was when they said, "Hey, how about if we do this?" So, incredible. I didn't mean to cut you out, Jeanette. Jeanette just wanted
No.
to throw out there that this
Yeah,
it
no.
was a hey, let's do this kind of a thing backstage.
Yeah. And I think it's important to know in hindsight. I think, Matt, you were kind of alluding like, well, you must know, don't drink the water, or you must know what's happening. Like, I still think that there was this hesitation that people thought, well, they still troll us. They could stop
A
at
lot
any
of people,
time.
yeah,
Right.
a lot of people
Like,
didn't know. I
Yeah.
kept saying
yeah.
it and thinking I was nuts because nobody was getting as excited as I was like, no. And then Stay comes next, and I'm like, I Stay.
Well, Stay.
And then
that's when my radar went up because I was
I
like, this
think
is
so
a
too,
weird
because now there's no
placement to
guests.
Stay.
Right. And I'm
Yeah.
like, like I still felt like nobody was actually either they weren't believing it or they were just like, what? Like they weren't putting it together. Like they weren't
Right.
actually
Right.
thinking in that.
Until around like honestly, it was like until Stay Halloween Stone. Halloween.
Yeah,
like
I think
then-
Halloween is like
Yeah.
that's the, when you've already got
I
Last
agree.
Stop mid set, and then you're gonna get Halloween mid set. Like that's when you
Yep.
had to know.
because these are encore
Yes.
closers. These are not mid-set songs, and
Right.
both of them in the same show.
Right.
right.
In the order that they were
Right.
supposed to be.
Halloween, I felt finally people like we have an enormous group chat with a bunch of people that we were there with. Halloween was when the group chat started blowing up. Wait a second, is this? And I remember writing, I've been waiting for you all to realize it. I didn't want to like
say
because I also didn't want to say it and it be
You don't
and
want
it
to
not
jinx it.
happen. Right. You don't want to
but
jinx it. Because I was still even like, I'm not gonna believe it till frickin' Spoon. I'm not gonna believe it until we get to the end.
I think it was like Stone. It was like Halloween. We knew Stone. We accepted it. Like, all right,
Yes,
now
right,
we know
we
the next couple of
accepted it,
songs.
it's
We accept
happening.
it. This is happening. They're not trolling us.
Yeah.
I have Sean on a video. I'll never forget because it was weird. Like a lot of the guys like just were like sitting down because they were like, "What the
There's
hell?"
a lot to
I know they
comprehend.
Yeah.
right.
What they could
It was-
not process
It
what
was
was happening.
overwhelming.
It was
so much
overwhelming.
process.
And
Overwhelming.
Sean stands up and goes, "This is going to be the best Gorge show ever." And it was like he was so
Yeah.
like they were just so much shock.
So he was so serious.
Yeah,
Sean was
Sean was so serious.
100,000% serious.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that this makes any sense in retrospect, but prior to Stay, and I really base this off of the fact that Béla was out for Last Stop and Don't Drink. Then he leaves the stage and then they play Stay. But prior to Stay, it just felt like we were off to this incredible start.
Yes.
And they had an original member who recorded these songs in studios. They were going to utilize him.
Mhm.
But when Stay happened, it really started to feel like you were a part of something really special. I will say, and hearing Trisha and Jeanette talk about what it was like being in the crowd, I don't really think that there's anything quite like being in the audience when you know something to this magnitude is happening. You can practically feel the wave washing over the audience as everyone slowly starts to figure out what's going on. And then there's this incredible connection that develops with all of the people that you're surrounded by. And it's something that I think is hard to explain, but when you're there, it's very, very apparent in that moment that you are in this, whatever this is, you are in this with all of those thousands of people that you're surrounded by. It's a surreal experience. It's unbelievable what's happening on stage, but to feel that wash through the crowd, it's unbelievable. It's very hard to describe. It's almost something that you really have to be in the middle of to comprehend how massive that feeling is.
Yeah. And I think it's important to tell our listeners, because we did get this question a lot. This is the first time they played a full album. I think they played Away from the World. Is that what you said? But that wasn't in
But
order.
it wasn't front to back. It was
No,
right. It wasn't front to
there was
back.
songs
Yeah, there
in
were other songs
between,
sprinkled in, and
and there was 1 or 2 songs that were flipped, so
Yeah.
it wasn't actually,
Yeah.
So
I don't
This is
even think they
completely
really.
uncharted territory.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And not to mention a front to back performance. You know,
Right.
it's like
Right.
this is
Unreal.
This is really, really crazy. So I think a lot of people, the other thing that was going through people's heads at this point is, okay, how's this going to end? Are they going to just play through all the way? Are they going to, close with Crush and then come back with others? Like nobody really knew how this was going to go. And then,
Right.
the other thought is, how do you follow this up? Right. Like if you're not going to close
Right.
with Spoon,
Right.
and are you going to bring back the reprise at the end of Spoon, like on the album? Like there's just all these questions that that came out, and the answer was that you would have a couple of other songs afterwards, and you would also have Jake Rennick Simpson come back out for the end of this. As we talked about, Jake was there the night before for Lion Our Graves and Ants Marching. Jake comes out for Spoon, and also out for Pig, and then Spoon, and to finish out the album. And just what a treat again.
Ooh. And Béla comes back out for Spoon too.
Right.
Yeah.
Bella's back out for
Ella
Spoon.
and Jake for Spoon.
Yep.
I mean, it was
Yep.
awesome. That
Yeah.
Spoon was awesome.
And Tim on acoustic.
And Tim on
And
acoustic.
Tim on
I was just gonna
acoustic.
say,
Yeah,
yep.
that was actually the biggest highlight of it of Spoon for me was Tim on the acoustic, because he sounded amazing.
Yep. Just great. Spoon is such a song on the album. Go listen to our Before These Crowded Streets album discussion that we had, but so much of Before These Crowded Streets is just layered so beautifully in the production, and Tim just fits in as just this beautiful layer on top of everybody else within all of these songs. And this is, as we said, this is best case scenario. This is as close as you're going to get to delivering that studio recording to to the masses in this way. And we, as a podcast, as this is happening, reached out to Steve Lillywhite as it was because we were like, oh my gosh, Steve has to know about this. And we reached out to Steve and told him, and he responded back to us and
Immediately.
Immediately, and said that he was so happy to hear. He said, that's huge. This was my masterpiece, and I'm not saying that big-headedly. We talked so much about Steve. Steve was so much a part of Before These Crowded Streets, and it just felt like he needed to know that this was happening somewhere in the universe, because he just had so much to do with everything that was Before These Crowded Streets and everything that was Gorge Night 2 revolved around that.
So many people were asking as the show was over and in the following days, when did you know? When did you know what was happening? And I think that the everybody had their own story as to when they knew or when they bought into the fact that this was happening. But the thought that I kept having once I could comprehend what was happening, and Trisha talked about the fact that I had to sit down for a minute and collect myself, and, and then
he did.
Tell myself, okay, we're going to proceed here the rest of the night. This show's happening. It was an awful lot like if you were lucky enough to ever be in attendance for a no-hitter or a perfect game in baseball. It's the type of thing where at first maybe everyone doesn't realize what's happening. And then once people catch on to the fact that they're witnessing history, it's almost like the entire viewing audience is just hoping that they somehow don't blow it. Right? Like, you want to be there for this monumental moment, whether you're watching on TV or in person or however you're consuming it. You just want to say that you were involved when this happened.
Right.
And I felt that way for a moment sitting there. I was like, please don't blow this.
Yes, please just keep going. Like, that's why it's almost like every song you're like, okay, with Crush, okay, The Dreaming Tree, okay, like you're like still like not.
Is it gonna happen?
Well, you could see them. You could see DMB playing this out of order by mistake, right?
Well,
like you could easily see that happening. Like
or like not bringing Béla out for Spoon or something, and being like,
right,
guys. But for me, I think it was what was also beautiful about it was the realization of people realizing like, oh my God, they're playing Before These Crowded Streets, and by Halloween we still have the Stone, Crush, Dreaming Tree, Pig,
epic
Spoon.
songs.
Epic songs. So everybody around me is going, oh my God, I'm gonna hear The Dreaming Tree, or oh my God, I'm gonna hear.
Oh my God,
right. They're gonna hear their favorite song that maybe they haven't heard yet live, or they're finally gonna get to hear it again after 10 years or something. And that also was a very beautiful experience to be a part of, hearing our friends say things like that, because also you're like praying that they're gonna play it, but you're also like, this is a reality for them. Like they're gonna get their song and they know it now.
Yeah. Yep. And when can you ever say that at a DMB show?
Exactly.
You
Sure.
never,
Exactly.
ever know what
Right.
you're going to get, which is
And the fact
that's
that
really interesting.
the fact that everybody did know what was next, that led to these really cool moments where one song would end. Pick whatever song you want. Maybe it's, if we keep using that same example, maybe Crush ends and everyone's anticipating that Dreaming Tree is going to start. Then Dreaming Tree does start. And then every time a song started, because everyone was in this together, it led to these moments where everyone, as you turned around and looked, they were high-fiving or they were
roaring.
hugging.
Yeah.
Like everyone was really in this and living and dying with every single next song,
Yeah.
even though they knew it was, at this point,
Right.
everyone knows what's
Right.
happening.
Right.
I
But
mean,
there was
I don't
still
know.
this-
There was
Like pinch me moment.
There
Yeah,
was a moment where like no one was having, like you guys were shocked, silent, like your faces were actually like you weren't smiling, you were like in shock, like your eyes were bulging, like is this happening? Like it wasn't actually. I was like, are you guys okay? Like, are you okay?
I cried during the Stone. Remember, I hugged Sean. I
Yeah.
was like, I can't believe this is happening.
Yes. I will say a quick pause there on the Stone, and I'm glad you said the Stone, Jeanette, because we are lucky that the Stone is a song that, you know, some of these songs are really rare. A song like the Stone is in semi-regular rotation. Everybody's going to always say that they want more Stones, and of course I do too. But what we get with the Stone is this most beautiful Can't Help Falling in Love outro
Right.
all the time. This one was so different because by the
I-
time we got to the Stone, it was like 20 some thousand, however many people were at the Gorge that night knew what
We
was
were-
happening.
We were a fucking
And be-
choir.
Yeah. And because of that, everyone was so into that part of the night.
And we were all like literally on point. Like Carter was directing us, and we
Yep.
never been in a crowd that we got it right like that. And there's just like what 30,000-40,000 people, and we got it right. And it was during the pauses, it was, you could hear a pin drop. Like it was so beautiful. We were the best choir.
So yeah, I mean, what else can you say about this? I mean, we've talked about Before These Crowded Streets for, I think, what was it, 2.5 hours, guys, when we recorded that
Yeah.
album discussion. It really is the everything to the reason that we're here. It's it's all of those things. Again, I invite you to listen to that if you've never listened to it before, because there's so much great stuff in there. But to have that translate into a show is again something we never thought we would see, and something that is going to, you're always going to remember where you were when this happened, and for you guys to have been there, like that's a whole nother level of that. And
Yeah.
everybody who was there with you is for sure going to remember that. It's sort of like those just to relate it over to the Grateful Dead, people talk about the Cornell show in 77 as like, the height of the Grateful Dead, and it's like looked at as like the A number one, the everything. Who knows, like if we're gonna be sitting here in 20 years on this podcast and we're gonna be like, oh yeah, 8:30:25. That was just the, it
That was
doesn't get
the
any better than
most
that.
historic show.
You know,
I have
like-
to say that morning I woke up and showered. It was like 9 a.m. I put a goose shirt on,
She
and
did.
it was so hot during the day. I mean, it was so hot that I did not have the will or energy or capacity to change before the show. So then after the show, I was freaking embarrassed. I was like, I wore a goose shirt to the most historic DMB show ever. Like I was like hiding my shirt as I was walking out. Like, oh my God, I'm so
story.
embarrassed. Like, I feel like Dave really put us in our place. Like put someone like me in my place. Like, yeah, who's the king around here? But I remember this. Like, it was just unbelievable. It truly was. Actually, Sean, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say Sean made us go live to talk about this,
sure
and
did.
then
I
he
mean,
didn't say any
don't
words
regret it.
because he was
Don't
speechless.
regret it.
Speechless, as he said when we first started recording
Yeah,
our Gorge recaps. He was
exactly.
just
Right.
he was taken right back to that moment.
He's like, we
Speechless
have to
is
go
great.
live. We have to tell everybody. And then he had no words.
As it turns
Literally
out, being
whatever.
speechless, it's a great way to feel after a show, not a great way to go live.
Yeah.
Not a great feeling to have when you go live.
And just so
I
you guys know,
also-
what
Go ahead, Matt.
when we go live after a show, it's usually one of the four of us's idea, and we
Yeah.
never save those live. So if you're
Mhm.
lucky enough to catch one,
You caught it. You
Catch
were
it.
lucky.
catch it and
Catch it.
take it
It's
with
gonna be a train
you
wreck.
and think about it because
keep it locked
it's
in that
never
memory.
going to see the light
We're
of
gonna see
day.
the
We always think it's a good idea, but it's never.
Yeah.
It
Never. a good
never
idea.
is. It
Someone
never
in the
is.
comments even brought that up. They were like, "Oh, good. This is like the night after the Woodlands. Great.
Yeah. This rivals the
Well,
Woodlands. We're like, oh God, we got to
Only
go.
this
Oh,
was,
we gotta
you know,
go."
2:30 a.m. Eastern time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Sean's like, we gotta go. We have to get off this right now, like live, as we're live.
It went south
Yeah.
quick.
It went south quick. But really, do we want to talk a little bit about the lore? I think Alex Brandt talked about this. You were referring to this map, but you have a watchtower, which maybe is a signal of like, watch what's coming. You never know, it could happen
Yep.
into
Mhm.
this. And then maybe ending it with, so what would you say?
Hey,
People.
what would you say?
Hey,
just
what
say?
would you
Yeah.
say? Right? Like, you know,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that there is some, you were talking about this, there was a real intention about every single slot.
I do think that was the case. And
Yeah.
I also want to make sure that we talk about the end of the show, because you got Satellite with Bella and Jake, which was quite a treat. Something that,
Mhm.
Satellite, on the regular is I would say not a song that you're necessarily super jazzed to see. I mean, I think you can like Satellite, but having those two guys on there for that after this, like as the come down from before these
Right.
crowded streets,
Right.
and then just a phenomenal Tripping Billies to close out the night before the
So
encore
fun.
with Jake tearing it up is just it's the chef's kiss, it's the cherry on top, it's whatever you want to call it.
It
was
like
just awesome.
like we said in our last episode, it was our band again. It was
Yeah.
like,
Right.
there's our band. Yeah.
And we could literally cut and paste the conversation that we had around Graves and just drag and drop it into the Billies conversation.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
They're
Absolutely.
songs that
Right.
people love. They've been beloved for seemingly forever, but to hear them the way that we
Yeah.
all grew up consuming them,
They haven't hit the
um,
same in a while, and they hit.
No,
hit
this was equal parts overdue and equal parts just like a euphoric release after what had just happened.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. And obviously with the majority of this being before these crowded streets, you have another just old DMB. It's
Mhm.
everything is old, like
Mhm. Yeah,
I think the
Satellite
newest-
Driven Billies. What would you say? Yeah.
Yep. And
Yeah.
I think the newest song of this whole thing is Cornbread, right? That's like
No, It Could
It
Happen.
could happen. Sorry, it could
Yeah.
happen.
It could
But
happen.
other than that,
Yeah.
But other
It
than
Could
that,
Happen is
yeah,
Cornbread.
Cornbread. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
And when we talk about how deliberate this night was, and Trisha was talking a little bit about the lore behind the writing of this set list, and we could truly have an entire episode breaking down the meaning behind some of the things that they did on this particular night. I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about this encore, because you have Rye Whiskey, which is a Dave Solo staple, and we got Dave Solo every night in the E1 slot, but the E2 slot we end up getting on this most historic monumental night. We get a What Would You Say encore, which, as a lot of people know, was the first single off of DMB's first full-length studio album. So this just felt like we were a part of this night of celebrating the Dave Matthews Band. It was a concert, of course, but it felt like we were really just involved in celebrating the history of this band.
Mhm.
And on the way out, I got caught buying merch. So
What are you gonna do? I think we all bought the poster. She bought a shirt.
It
We
had to
caught her
happen.
on tape. It had to happen. I mean,
I'm-
you needed like
I'm
something.
currently wearing the merch and showcasing the merch. So if I
Right.
wasn't caught then, I was going to be caught now.
Jeanette just upholding her no March New Year's resolution just
really not doing well.
to a T. Yep.
Not doing well. Did not do well this year. No.
Well, that I think is going to do it for night 2 here. I mean, just an epic evening. We said it's old DMB, but it's also, just everything was so well put together. And, in terms of like what we spent time talking about, not only, and I think this is really the big thing, not only do we talk about Before These Crowded Streets front to back, but we also talk about a number 41 for the ages with
Right.
Bells Like and Flecktones. I
Yes.
mean, like in the same show
Yes.
Right.
is forget about it. Is just
Forget
true.
about it.
It's really unbelievable. I'll say before we wrap it up, I try to stay away from debates of where something like this ranks all time, because I think it's really hard to compare what this band is right now in comparison to what this band was.
Sure.
It's kind of changed and evolved a lot over time, right? But that said, the fact that DMB played a show in 2025 that even opened up the conversation for where does this rank all time is pretty incredible. That on its own is pretty
I agree with
pretty
you.
remarkable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we could get into a whole debate, which we're not going to debate here, about what that means, and what would even be on the table for greatest show of all time. And you'd rope in things like Central Park with this, and other things like that. I don't think it's a fair debate for a lot of reasons, but we're not going to get into
Yep,
that. I think we all
agreed.
would have very differing opinions, and maybe we will get into that at some point in the off season here. That might be a fun debate topic, but I think we can all agree that this was
This is it.
special. This was such a highlight, and this is something that is going to be talked about for years to come, for sure.
Absolutely.
On this
Show
podcast,
301
and this-
forever.
Show 301 forever. So we've got one more night left of the Gorge, guys, and it is sort of a where do you go from here? And where we're going to go from here is to part 3 of our Gorge recap. So I hope if you enjoyed this and you enjoyed night 1, that you will come back to hear all about the night that was night 3. It was a honking delight, is all we can say.
Never miss a Sunday show.
We'll see you soon.
Bye.